Loggers. The threshold has been crossed. 100 of you now walk these liminal paths with me. But the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. And I need more loggers to help document the descent. Subscribe now and become part of the growing archive. When we reach 500, the next door opens. What waits beyond is something I can't face alone. Join the logs. Stay aware. Stay afraid. Let's dive into today's story. They found the hole during a survey near Dunrowan, a dying mining town tucked into the Scottish Highlands. The ground had cracked open at the edge of a long abandoned quarry, revealing a pit that seemed to breathe cold air. The earth around it had caved in like soft bread, leaving a jagged wound that descended farther than the eye could follow. No one wanted to investigate, but they paid Thomas Craig well. He was a freelance geologist with no attachments, no questions, and no fear of dark places. He rappelled in on the second day after the initial crew set up their equipment. The air grew colder the further he descended. The rope groaned with tension, and the walls of the pit wept black moisture that stank of sulfur and decay. His light flickered more than once. He ignored it. At 50 meters down, he reached a ledge. Something about it felt wrong. The rock under his boots wasn't natural stone, but something carved. It looked almost like a mouth. Rows of jagged ridges curved upward like teeth. He radioed to the surface. No response. Then he heard something breathe. Not the wind. Not an echo. A wet, ragged inhale, as if the pit itself had lungs. He turned. His flashlight beam slid across the walls. There were markings etched into them, old and crude, symbols that twisted in ways his brain resisted. Among them, a shape moved. It unfolded from the rock like it had been hiding just beneath the surface. Long and lean, skin like wet bark. Its limbs were too many. Its head was all wrong, shaped like a leech's body ending in a split mouth lined with bristles. It did not attack. It just stood there, swaying. Thomas tried to climb. The rope shook. The thing watched him for a moment longer, then retreated into the wall, melted back into stone like ink sinking into paper. When they pulled him up an hour later, he didn't speak. Not at first. Just stared at the sky as if he hadn't seen it in years. Later in the tent, he whispered that there was something alive down there. Ancient. Buried, not by accident, but on purpose. The survey team packed up that night. They left without a word. No official report was filed. No one spoke of it again. 3 weeks later, the pit was gone. Not filled in. Gone. The ground had healed itself. Trees grew over it faster than they should have. Nature trying to forget. But Thomas didn't forget. He started digging in his own backyard 2 months later. Neighbors said he worked through the night with bare hands when the tools broke. He said he could still hear the breathing, and he was getting closer. Thomas's backyard had become a crater. The fence had collapsed on one side. Mud slicked the edges and rainwater pooled in the bottom, but he kept digging. Neighbors called the police once. They found him waist deep in muck, fingernails bleeding, muttering under his breath. They let him go. No crime in digging your own property. He hardly ate. He didn't sleep. He taped blankets over his windows and nailed the doors shut. Inside the house, he placed little cups of salt by every wall, every vent, and every outlet. He kept the lights on even during the day, every bulb buzzing with exhaustion. The sound had followed him, not just at night, in the walls, under the floorboards, a faint breathing like something dreaming far below. Sometimes it spoke his name. He knew it wasn't madness. He remembered the thing in the pit, the way it looked at him like it had seen his insides. It hadn't followed him. It had entered him. Not a possession, not a haunting, a marking. The pit had shown him something, an image that lived now behind his eyelids, a memory that wasn't his, a city beneath the crust of the world, built from living stone and bone, towers shaped like spines, roads paved in skin, a god that slumbered in its center, older than the oceans, waiting for someone to wake it. He had seen its eye open. Once, for a second, that was enough. One morning, the neighbors found his house empty. No lights, no sound, just a narrow tunnel in the center of the crater, freshly dug and perfectly round, leading straight down into the earth. He had gone back. They sealed the house, left it to rot. Years passed. Sometimes people near Dunrowan still hear it. If you walk the old quarry road on a windless night, you might catch the faintest sound rising from deep underground. A breath, slow and steady, waiting. The drilling team arrived quietly under government contract. No media, no questions. Just 5 unmarked trucks and a reinforced platform lowered into the old Dunrowan quarry. Locals watched from a distance, but no one went near. Not since the last time. It had been nearly 10 years since Thomas Craig vanished, but he wasn't forgotten. The story of the pit had circulated through forums and private archives. Geological anomalies, missing persons, whispers of something ancient, something breathing. The lead scientist, Dr. Kessler, had read Thomas's old field notes. What little survived. The final page was stained and torn, but one phrase kept her up at night. We didn't dig deep enough. It's not sleeping. It's listening. They began the descent on a cold morning. The new shaft used ground-penetrating radar and thermal scanners. At 100 meters, instruments failed. Static buzzed. Readouts flattened. Below that point, the rock itself changed. Not naturally. It was structured, latticed like a rib cage, veined with heat. And deeper, something moved. Not shifting rock, not tectonics, but deliberate motion, slow and rhythmic, like something breathing. The crew sent a drone. It made it 90 meters before the feed turned black. A single frame captured just before signal loss showed an interior chamber, roughly spherical, pulsing with a red light. In the center, a figure stood. Naked, covered in black soil and dried blood, head tilted upward, eyes open. Thomas Craig. He hadn't aged. They brought him up on day 4. No resistance. He climbed out of the hole like he was returning from a long swim. He said nothing. His pulse was steady, skin ice cold. When they asked where he had been, he smiled with cracked lips. Underneath, he said. They took him to a secure facility 2 towns over. Medical scans revealed abnormalities. His heart beat once every 30 seconds. His brain showed activity even in regions long considered dormant. His eyes didn't respond to light, but he claimed he could still see. He drew constantly, circles within circles, spirals that made the nurses dizzy if they looked too long, and always the same central image, an eye that wasn't quite an eye, made of layered bone and ash. On the seventh night, all power in the facility failed. Emergency lights flickered. Doors opened without codes. The cameras didn't catch what happened after that. Just flickers of motion, a dragging sound. By morning, the building was empty. Every staff member gone. Only one thing was left behind. In the center of the main hallway, a hole. Clean, perfect, and impossibly deep. They've closed the town now, declared it unstable. All roads blocked. Surveillance drones patrol the skies. But locals still hear things in the hills, a heartbeat in the ground, a voice that sometimes speaks their names. Something underneath is awake now, and it remembers the ones who found it first.